In the first part, you found out how my own sister started a gossip that destroyed my family. She claimed that my child was not from my husband. I was humiliated, trampled on, but not broken. I did a DNA test live, and that's when the fun started. This story is still far from over. In the second part, you will find out who was really behind all this, and why the truth turned out to be much scarier than a lie. After the broadcast, my life became like the silence after an explosion, deafening, but full of echoes. I was sitting in the kitchen, looking at my phone, which was flashing notifications from subscribers, friends, even strangers. "Ashley, you are the queen. Sister got what she deserved." Tom apologized to her. I leafed through them, feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The live broadcast where I opened the envelope with the DNA test results, proving that Tom is Jacob's father, with a 99.999% probability, was not just a victory. It was my cry, my way of burning out the lies that Melissa had spread like poison into my family. But the victory did not heal the wounds. It only showed how deep they go. Melissa disappeared from my life like a ghost that was banished by the light. She deleted her social networks, stopped answering calls, even to her mother. I found out from Lisa's cousin that Melissa had locked herself in her house, and her husband, the office alpha clown, had not been sleeping with her for a week. She broke down, Lisa said, her voice full of pity, but I felt nothing but cold rage. Melissa wasn't just jealous of my happiness. She wanted to destroy it because she couldn't have her own. Lisa told me that before our wedding, Melissa tried to flirt with Tom, making eyes at him at a party where we were all. Tom turned her down by choosing me, and she didn't forgive him or me. I remembered her strange smile at the wedding, her absence at Jacob's birth, her illness, while she was posting stories from the bar. Everything was coming together like a jigsaw puzzle, and I hated myself for not having seen it before. Mom called every day, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and despair. "Ashley, you've disgraced the family," she said, and I could hear her swallowing back tears. Melissa just made a mistake. She didn't want to. I clutched the phone, my fingers white, and replied, "Mom, she was lying. She wanted to destroy my family." Mom sighed. Her favorite weapon is heavy silence. But I didn't give up. "You always protected her," I said one day, and she hung up. Dad was different. He didn't call, but a couple of days after the broadcast he sent a message, a smiley face with a light and the word "well done." I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. My brother Jack was as straightforward as ever. "Finally, someone slammed on the table," he wrote. "I'm proud, little sister." His words were like an anchor, keeping me afloat when everything else was sinking. Tom began to change. After the broadcast, he looked at me differently, not with doubt, but with something like guilt. He brought me coffee in the morning, touched my shoulder when he passed by, and offered to walk with Jacob as a threesome. One evening, when Jacob was asleep, he sat next to me on the couch and said, "Ashley, I'm sorry. I should have believed you right away." His voice was shaking, and I could see how hard it was for him to say it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask why he was silent, why his doubts were louder than our love. But instead, I nodded and took his hand. "We'll start over," I said, and he hugged me so tightly that I felt the cracks inside begin to stick together. But Melissa left scars that wouldn't heal. I couldn't forget how her words, "Jacob doesn't look like Tom at all," spread through chat rooms, on TikTok, and in the ears of friends. I remembered how Sarah, my friend, sent me that anonymous clip where Jacob's photo was next to Chris. "My ex, sometimes DNA speaks louder than an engagement ring," the caption read, and I could still feel my hands tremble then. The comments under the video were like knives. "She's a blogger, of course she's lying. The child doesn't look like her husband." I sat in the dark, flipping through them until tears began to burn my eyes. Sarah wrote that Melissa was chatting at brunch with her friends, sowing this poison. Well, look at him. I think Ashley wasn't completely honest. I couldn't believe that my sister, who sang lullabies to Jacob, who hugged me at the wedding, could so coldly stab me in the back. I was remembering how it all started. Melissa returned to our lives after the divorce. Her marriage fell apart like a house of cards. She was trying to conceive a child, but nothing was working, and I could see her perfect facade cracking. She came to us, played with Jacob, joked with Tom, but her eyes were as cold as glass. "He's so sweet," she said of Jacob, but her voice was too sweet, like syrup hiding the bitterness. I brushed it off, thinking she was just sad. But then she said, "Does he even look like Tom?" And I felt something inside me shrink. I laughed it off, but the words settled like sand in a wound. And then TikTok started chats, whispers. Melissa knew that I was a blogger, that my every move was under a microscope. She expected me to break down, to make excuses, to hide. But I decided that I would not let her win. Preparing for the broadcast was like preparing for a war. I was sitting in front of the mirror, applying makeup, but my hands were shaking, as if I were holding a grenade instead of a brush. I didn't want to look weak. I didn't want the audience to see tears. I left Jacob with my mom, who looked at me with disapproval. "Ashley, this is too much," she said, but I just shook my head. Tom agreed to be there, even though his eyes were full of doubts. "Are you sure?" "What is it?" he asked, standing in the doorway of our bedroom. "And you?" I replied, and he fell silent, as if the words were stuck in his throat. I put on a black dress, simple, without glitter, as if I was going not to stream, but to court. And damn it, it was a trial, for Melissa, for Tom, for me. The broadcast started at 8 in the evening. 5,000 viewers tuned in the first few minutes, their comments flying like arrows. "Ashley, you are the queen. What kind of drama? Where is the truth?" I sat in front of the camera, my back straight, with an icy calm that was hidden behind the hurricane inside. Tom was sitting next to him. His hands were clenched into fists, but he was looking at the camera like a soldier ready for battle. In front of us was an envelope with the results of a DNA test, white as a verdict. I took it, my fingers were cold, and said, "Do you want to know the truth? Okay, let's get to know her together." I opened the envelope, feeling my heart beating in my throat, and read aloud. "The probability of paternity is 99.999%. Tom is a father." The comments exploded like fireworks. "That's the queen. Scum sister. Tom, apologize." I looked at Tom, and for the first time in weeks, I saw tears in his eyes. He took my hand, squeezed it, and I felt something inside me crack. Not from pain, but from relief. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I looked into the camera and said, quietly but firmly, "Melissa, you've destroyed trust. Not to me, to myself." My words hung in the air like a blade, and I knew they would find her wherever she was. Mom called an hour later. Her voice was like hot metal. "Ashley, you've disgraced the family. Why did you make a fool of Melissa?" I clutched the phone, feeling the rage return. "Mom, she was lying. She wanted to destroy my family." Mom sighed. Her silence was as heavy as a stone. "She's just jealous," she finally said. "You have to forgive." I hung up before I could finish listening. Dad sent me a smiley face with a sparkle and the word, "Well done." And I smiled, feeling the warmth I had long forgotten. Jack, my brother, wrote. Finally, someone slammed on the table. "I'm proud." His words were like a beacon in the dark, reminding me that I'm not alone. Melissa replied only once in a messenger. "Why did you make a circus out of this? What would Mom say?" I didn't answer. She started this show by spreading poison in chat rooms, at brunches, on TikTok. I just turned on the light, and she couldn't stand it. Lisa told me that Melissa tried to flirt with Tom before our wedding, but he chose me and it became her personal war. She couldn't have a child, couldn't keep her husband, and decided that I had to pay for her pain. But I didn't pay. I chose the truth, and the truth was louder than her lies. Now I'm sitting on the floor with Jacob, building a tower of cubes with him, and listening to him laugh, calling each cube a superhero. Tom brings me coffee, his hand touches my shoulder, and I know we're going to start over. Mom calls, asks to forgive Melissa, but I'm not ready. I look at Jacob, at his dark curls, at his smile, which looks so much like Tom, and I think, how loudly can the truth be silent? Family is not blood. This is trust. It's a choice of who to keep around. And I chose. I'm not going to let you spit in my face and call it love anymore. Melissa wanted a circus, but I gave her the truth, live under the light of thousands of eyes, and that light burned her lies to ashes.